Alrighty, guys. So this morning we just had a look, a bit of an overview of our Juniper platform generally. So what we want to do now is we want to go and take a look at configuring the operating system. We're going to get into looking at setting up some interfaces and some of the basic stuff that we would generally want to do. So let's take a look at some of the user interface options, and we'll look at using the command line interface on Junos. So we'll look at some of the basics. Operational mode and configuration mode. So what is operational mode and configuration mode? Well, essentially, if I can relate that back to what we did in our CCNA course, whereas when you log in to the device, you are in a mode where you can monitor the device, but you can't change anything. Once you go into config mode, so with a Cisco device, you type in configure terminal or conft for short, and then you're in configuration mode. Okay, so there's a very similar concept here, where we've got operational mode, we can monitor the device, see what's happening, look at the status of things, and then we've got configuration mode where we can go in and make changes. So same concept. So the Juniper, or Junos CLI is text-based as we used to, so it's very similar in a lot of ways to Cisco's iOS. Accessible through the console using a terminal program like PuTTY, which is what we're using. Uses an RJ45 on the console end, so basically the console port is an RJ45 port, same as Cisco, and the other end of the cable is an RS232, which, as you all know, is a serial port. Right? RS232 is the standard which is used for serial ports. Exactly the same config as Cisco, 9600 BPS 81 and N. So that's exactly the same as Cisco, which is actually the default as well. So you don't change anything. It's the default for PuTTY. Okay, you open it up. If you were to click on the serial tab on PuTTY, that would be the default. We are going to be using SSH, so also accessible through network ports using an access manager protocol such as Telnet or SSH. We're using SSH. What is the difference between Telnet and SSH? You want to tell what the main difference is? It's security. Yeah, SSH is encrypted, or Telnet is not. That's what is more secure. Here we are stating the obvious here, requires a network interface and related service configuration. And many Junos devices include a dedicated management Ethernet interface used for out-of-band access. What is that? Well, here's the thing. On a lot of there is a basic concept within telecommunications of out-of-band access, and that means that we want to get access into our devices through another channel or through another means that we don't use for our transit traffic, and that is called out-of-band access. So when we're accessing a device through an interface that is not used for transit traffic, that's out-of-band. That's just the name for it. Okay, I don't know why it's called out-of-band, it's just called out-of-band. All right, so on some Juniper devices, they have another interface that is not used for anything other than putting an IP address on it that you're going to use to connect to the device. So you'll configure it up, you'll SSH into that interface, and that's the only thing you ever use that interface for. Okay, so the other way of accessing the device is through a browser. So it does have a browser-based connection as well. Which is quite good, and there are some elements of configuration that are actually way easier through the browser than they are through the CLI. And those elements are when we get into configuring things like content filtering. We do a security course, okay? We'll get into things like content filtering and setting up setting up called scheduling and those sorts of things, where you can put policies on a schedule and that sort of stuff. It's quite good through the J web interface. Most of the things we'll do through the CLI. Certainly, if you're going into the exam, the Juniper exam, you will need to know the CLI. Okay, so it does have a JWeb. If you open up your browser to the IP address of your device, you should be able to log into the JWeb functionality. Okay, so we're going to look at the CLI basics, we're going to look at operational mode, and we're going to look at configuration mode. Okay, so logging in. Logging in. Non-root users are placed into the CLI automatically. What does that mean? Well, there is a particular user access called root access. Now, those of you who have anything to do with Linux or Unix will be familiar with the concept of root access. So, on a Linux or Unix device, root is absolute privileges to absolute everything. Okay, that is like you are the all-powerful one when you log in as root. There's nothing more powerful than root. So essentially, if I log in as root, I don't get the CLI straight up. It's pretty easy to get to the CLI. I just have to type CLI, and there I am. Okay, but if you log in as lab with the password of lab123, like we're going to, you will arrive directly at the CLI. Okay, if you log in as root, you don't arrive at the CLI, you arrive at another little prompt with this kind of little percentage sign next to it there, which is an actual, you can actually go and put commands in there. You actually are kind of below the operating system level. You kind of, the way that Juniper works, and I'll kind of get into this a little bit, is that the operating system is built on a core of BSD, so BSD Unix. It's got a BSD Unix core. So the operating system is built on top of that. So when we're kind of down here at root, we're kind of down at the BSD Unix core level. Okay. So root user must start the CLI from the shell. So we arrive at the shell, type CLI, and there we are at the command line interface. So fairly simple process. So what can we do in operational mode? Well, we can monitor, troubleshoot the software, network connectivity and hardware. Like we can run a ping command, run a traceroute command, we can do a show interfaces command, we can do a show routing protocols command, we can do a whole bunch of stuff to see what's going on, to see what the router is actually doing, how is it operating. Configuration mode, we can go and change stuff. Notice the prompt's different. Little greater than sign there, operational mode, and a little hash symbol in configuration mode. Okay, so 2 modes. Okay, now here's the thing. This is important. There are commands which are exactly the same in both modes, but do different things. A really good example of that is the show command. So if I was to go over and type in show interfaces in operational command, I will see the status of my interfaces. I'll see their IP addresses, whether they're up, whether they're down, what's going on with them. If I go over into configuration mode and I type in show interfaces, what I'll actually see is what is configured on my interface. I'll see the configuration. I'll see what's the actual, it's a bit like when you go show run. You know when you go show run on a, on a Cisco device, you see the actual running, the configuration that's there. It's a little bit like that, except better, because you actually get to see exactly how it's configured and the whole hierarchy of the configuration as well. So we'll just get into having a bit of a look at this. Of course, there are some commands that only work in operational mode, other commands that only work in configuration mode as well. Alright, so let's take a bit of a look at this here. So if you type a question mark anywhere on the command line, we can get help. So if I was just to come along and go into operation mode and type question mark, I would get help about anything that I could type at that particular point. So what commands were available to me from here. That's what I would get. If I was to type in clear and then type the question mark, I would see what commands are now available to me from this particular point. In other words, what comes after clear. So, for example, there's a bit of an example there, clear, configure, fire, help, etc. If I was to type clear, what could I clear? I could clear some of these things. Okay, it's going to tell me a little bit about exactly what things I can clear. So, there's some other help in there as well. So there's the help topic command. So the help topic command gives you detailed help about a particular topic. So I'll type in help topic and then type interfaces and then put a question mark there. I could say and go and get lots of information about the interfaces. Just say I type help topic interface addresses. Then what I get is this information here which says you assign an address to an interface by specifying the address when configuring the protocol family. For the INET family, configure the interface's IP address. And it goes on and explains in great detail about that particular topic. So this is all built into the operating system. That's all there. So you can go in and find out lots of information about any particular topic. Now, there is also help reference. And help reference actually gets into the syntax. So help topic's a bit more general about the topic, about sort of a bit of an overview, whereas help reference is now syntax based. What do I actually have to type? So this is help reference interface address. So here it is, interface address, and then you've got the various stuff that you can type at that level. Okay. Now, how to make life easier for yourself. All right. Remember, in Cisco, if you type part of a command, you can finish it off by hitting the tab key. Remember that? So if I was to type in, if I wanted to type interfaces, I could type INT tab, and it would fill in the rest of the word for me. Okay. Juniper does the same thing. You can hit the tab key and it will fill in the rest of the word for you. But you can also hit the space bar and it will do the same thing. Okay, so you can go INT space and there you go. So once you get the hang of this, it becomes very fast when it commands in, because you type the first bit and it's very easy to hit the space bar, right? Because you have to put your finger up and hit the tab key, just okay, so you can become very fast at typing commands in just by knowing the first bit space, first bit space, first bit space. You can complete a fairly long command very, very quickly. So if we were to go SH and use the space bar, but if there was multiple things that started with SH, it won't complete it for you. What it's going to tell you is, hey, there's lots of things that I could have completed with SH. Or let's just say, if you type SH and put space, it actually will fill in the OW, because that's about it. If I type I and space, then there's lots of things that it could have completed with the letter I. So SH is pretty straightforward. SH it will complete show. I, on the other hand, lots of things that it could actually be. So it's going to say, well, that's ambiguous. Which one of these things did you actually mean? And then you can type the rest of it in, or type part of the rest of it in. As I said, the tab key also does the same thing. It will complete a command for you, but the tab key will also complete variables. What's a variable? Well, a variable is something that you create in the operating system. Let's just say I was creating a firewall filter for a particular purpose, and I called it the block all students firewall filter. Okay, block-all-students. Boom, that's the name of my filter, and I applied that filter. If I wanted to reference that filter in my configuration, I could go into the part where I need to reference it, type in block tab, and go and just complete the rest of it for me. That's a variable. I wouldn't do it if I press space, but I would do it if I press tab. So tab does commands and variables, space does commands only. Okay, very handy because you quite often have to reference things that you've created in multiple places. Like I go and create a filter, and now I want to go and apply it into a particular place. I can go into that place where I'm applying it, type the first bit of it, hit the tab key, and it'll just complete it for me, which is really good because it really gets away from typing errors and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so what have we learnt so far? We learnt that the spacebar completes commands, and the tab key completes commands and variables that you create. You've also got this Emacs style editing sequences where you can use the little position key, like little arrows to arrow back and forwards along the lines. With the cursor, Control B will bring it back one, Control A takes it back to the beginning of the line, Control F takes it back to one space before, Control E takes it right to the end. So these are standard things. The same, Cisco does exactly the same thing, by the way, with those sorts of control. You don't need to use them. They're just a little bit to make things a bit faster for you. Like if you just want to quickly go to the end, quickly go to the beginning, that sort of thing. I think most people just arrow key across to the end. That works for most people. But this is all available. The pipe command is used to filter and manipulate output. This is something that you will use, like show route. Which route do I want? I want a route to where? Okay, so I could then show route and filter that on a particular address. So show me a route to 192.168.1.3. Got any routes to that address? Let's have a look. Show route, and you could go through and search to see if you have a route to that particular network, that address. Show route match, you'd actually go match that route, and then you put the address in. You can do a count, you can do lots of things, or show all routes except this one. So there's lots of different things you can do to actually filter the output that you're seeing it. You can go show route trim, which says only show me a certain amount of output, like I know I see 10 columns at a time. I don't see 10 columns from the start of the line. This is kind of good as well. Last, display the end of the output only. So it shows the last screen. So if you know that the route you're looking for always appears on the last page of a search, for whatever reason, you just go show route last, and it just brings up the last page. So you're scrolling through all the pages. So there's lots of little things you can use to actually sort of help you find the output that you're looking for. Okay, so operational mode. Looks like my VPN has timed out. It's actually supposed to do that. If you don't use it for a while, it does time out. So operational mode. Let's have a look at sort of executing these commands to monitor and control the operation. So let's just say I wanted to go show OSPF interfaces. So there is a hierarchy within the configuration, and so if I was going to go show, there's my show there, then I can go down to OSPF, then I can go down to interfaces. So it goes from less specific down to more specific. So what I'm doing is I'm not just saying show OSPF, because it'll show me everything about OSPF, including the interfaces. If I just want to see the interfaces that are associated with that protocol, I would type in show OSPF interfaces. If I want to see everything about OSPF, I'd just type in show OSPF. Or I might go in and type like show OSPF neighbors, for example, and I'd see my neighbors. So the kind of the configuration is from less specific down to more specific. So operational mode capabilities, we've got clear, configure, load, monitor, etc. So there's lots of different things we can do. SSH, telnet, trace routes. That's not everything. There are more. So there are a lot of many operational commands. Now, like anything, it's just a case of sort of getting used to them as to which commands do what. A little bit like we did with Cisco. Now, configuration mode. First thing to know about it is that it is a batch configuration model. What does that mean, batch? Well, that means that the configuration is applied not one at a time, but as a batch. So you just say, okay, what I want to do here is I want to put some IP addresses on my interfaces. Then I want to configure OSPF as my routing protocol. And I want to put a firewall filter on as well to create a certain, or to limit access to a certain networks. What you can do, you can go in there, you can configure your interfaces, then set up OSPF, then put your firewall filter on, then make it go live. In other words, it's not going live as you're creating it, it'll go live when you tell it to go live. So essentially, the way it works is we have a command called the commit command. When you type in commit, the configuration that you have just created becomes the live running configuration. Before you type commit, what it's called is the candidate configuration. So as soon as you go into configuration mode, what happens is the current configuration gets copied as the candidate configuration. Any changes you make, you are not changing the running configuration. You are changing the candidate configuration. All right. When you go to view your configuration to check what you've just typed in, you're viewing the candidate configuration, the one that you are actively working on. Okay. So that is a working copy of the running. Okay. So it becomes the active configuration when you type in commit. So when you type the command commit, the candidate becomes active, or it becomes what we would probably call in Cisco the running configuration. Juniper call it the active configuration. The active configuration is what you boot up to. That's the one that loads up. So I log in, I go into configuration mode, I type in configure, go into configuration mode, and then whatever changes I'm making in the candidate configuration. Okay. One of the beauties of that, and this has kind of saved me a few times, is you get into the configuration and you totally muddle it up. Like you just totally stuff something up, say, oh no, and then you can't figure out how to undo your stuff up, right? Because you've just done something completely wrong. I think I've completely lost my train of thought, what happened, and where I am. One of the great things about Juniper is you can just go straight back to where you began in one command and go straight back to where you started from, blow all that thing away and start again. And it hasn't affected anything. It hasn't affected your router, it hasn't affected its operation, it hasn't affected how it's running, it's done nothing. Okay, so you can quickly, it's a great operating system for recovering from stuff ups, if you like. You know, things that you muck up. Great. For saving you in that way. So we're going to take a look at how to do that. Alright, so we've got this concept of an active configuration. We go into configuration mode. That active now becomes a candidate The active's still running, nothing's changed there, it's all still running, but now I've got this candidate configuration that we are changing, which we can type commit to make active. Right? So we're going to make changes. We're going to change our candidate configuration and then commit it. Nothing changes unless you commit in Juniper. Okay, you can type anything you like, put all the IP addresses you like, set up anything you want. Unless you type commit, nothing goes live. Okay, so it's kind of like, do you really want to do this? You type commit, yes, okay, then it goes live. Okay, so let's take a look at the live delay configuration file. It starts off as the active configuration. You go into configuration mode, it becomes the candidate configuration. Okay, so here we are making changes, we decide, right, I'm ready to commit. I type in commit. That candidate configuration becomes the active configuration. But here's the thing. The configuration that was active before you type commit doesn't get blown away. It's not gone forever. Okay, what happens is it still gets saved on the device, but it gets saved in a little storage area. Okay, in actual fact, on the bigger devices, it will save 49 previous configurations. When you type commit, the candidate configuration becomes configuration 0. Okay, configuration 0 is the current running active configuration. That's configuration 0. The configuration that was active before you type commit becomes configuration 1. It's not active, but it is stored on the device. It's there. Now, what would be the advantage of that? The advantage is you type commit and you go, oops, I didn't want that to happen. Guess what you can do? This is really going to save your butt. You can type in rollback 1, enter, commit. Okay, it puts the previous active configuration back as the current active configuration. Saved. Okay, so that is a great feature on Juniper. Not only that, it saves up to 49 of those. All right, so you can go back, roll back 49. That will become active. All right, you still got to commit it though. Type in rollback, give it the number. That then becomes the candidate configuration. You commit it, and that then becomes the active configuration. Okay, so you can go back to a previous rollback. And guess what? There's even something better than that. There's a thing called a rescue configuration that you create on Juniper device, which is actually none of these at all. It's completely separate configuration, so that if everything just falls completely apart, you can type in rollback rescue, it'll load that up, and you can commit that. Okay, which is sort of another, like, just in case, you know, you mucked up the last 49 as well, you still got this other one called the rescue configuration on the device. Okay, on the device, not saved somewhere else. It's on the device. You can go back, you can roll back to it, commit it, boom, boom, and away you go. Okay, so we're going to look at those. We're going to do some rollbacks. We're going to create a rescue configuration, so you know how to do that. So there's some really nice butt-saving, if you like, features sort of built into the operating system. Okay, so how do we get into configuration mode? We type config, or configure, or just CONF for short, we'll do it. Now, there's a few variations on this. You can type in configure exclusive to exclude other users from editing the configuration. Okay, so I remember Sam had a question this morning, can you stop other people from getting in? You can. You go in, you get in first, and you type configure exclusive, just me. Okay, nobody else. And that way, you're it. Okay, no one else can get in to configure that device. Now, you can use that configure private as well, where you have multiple users in there, editing private copies of candidate configuration. When they issue a commit, their private changes merge back into the global configuration. Any uncommitted changes are discarded when users exit. If two users make competing changes, the first user's commit succeeds and the second user's commit receives a warning. And the second user must then commit a second time to make their changes go live. So in other words, it doesn't just let you unknowingly overwrite another person's changes. So somebody's gone in and, I don't know, put an IP address on an interface or made some changes to a routing protocol. You go in and make changes to the same routing protocol and you type commit, it'll say, hang on, someone's already made those changes, or someone's already in the system has made those changes. Do you really want to overwrite those changes? It gives you a chance to say, hey, hang on, what's going on here? Find out why somebody else has maybe made those changes. So if you do want to overwrite them, you just type commit a second time. So you go in and you can type configure private for that. It's kind of good if you've got people that are editing different things, like say someone setting up security policies, and somebody else is, I don't know, setting up a firewall filter on something else in another part of the system. Okay, so it kind of, you can both commit your changes, and one doesn't overwrite the other. They just make their particular changes individually. And you can have two people in at the same time configuring that same device but making different changes on different parts of the configuration. It works fine. So that's configure private. Now, there's another great thing is we'll get to the commit command later. Okay. Now, let's talk about how do we navigate our way around inside the configuration. Well, it's hierarchical, and use the edit command to go from hierarchy to hierarchy. In actual fact, the edit command is a little bit like remember the old change directory command? Probably not. Never used, no, okay. There was a command called change directory, which used to change you around different parts of the hierarchy, a bit like that. So I was to go edit interfaces. Boom, boom. I'm now operating at the interfaces level. So anything I write at that point, I'm now configuring anything under the interfaces hierarchy. If I was to go edit protocols, for example, I can now configure any of these. I'm at the protocols level. Okay, so if I was going to configure OSPF, for example, and I was at the very top level of my hierarchy, I would have to make the change to protocols OSPF. But if I was to type edit protocols, now I have to only make the change to OSPF. Okay, so basically I'm down at that level. And then if we went OSPF, where are we going down here? Area ID, so edit OSPF area 0, for example. I'm now editing area 0. I could go down to stub. So I'm creating a stub area, which is a type of OSPF area. We'll get to that. It's coming up. I'll be then editing the stub area. Okay, so from less specific to more specific. So the edit command is kind of like the change directory command. You actually take you to a place in the hierarchy, and you're then operating at that place in the hierarchy. So if I wanted to put an IP address on an interface, I could go edit interfaces GE 0/0/0 and enter, and I'm now right at that interface. And then I could go in and put an actual change on there. You have to use the set command. I'd go set unit 0 IP address, whatever. Okay, so I'll give you a demonstration of this. Okay. Now, how do we actually make changes to things on a Juniper device? We use the set command. This is different to Cisco. Cisco didn't have a set command. All right, if you want to put an IP address on an interface, you just go into configuration mode, and you just go into your type interface, FE0/0, enter, on the interface, and then you type in IP address, whatever, subnet mask, right? Enter, it's live, it's there, okay? With Juniper, you don't do that. With Juniper, you want to put a change onto something, you use the command set. So I would type, if I was doing the same thing in Juniper, I would go into configuration mode by typing CONF, press enter. I would then have a choice of going set interfaces GE 0/0/0 unit 0, which is the logical interface unit, we'll get to this, family INET, which is the protocol IPv4, address 10.10.20.5/24, enter. Okay, now I'll put a configuration on the interface. Otherwise, what I could have done, I could have typed in edit interface GE 0/0/0, enter. Now I'm down at that hierarchy. Now I can type set unit 0. So depending on where I am in the hierarchy, it depends on exactly what I'm going to type. But what you do is you're kind of aware as to where you are in the hierarchy, and it's actually very easy to do. The reason it's so easy to do is because at any point in the hierarchy, from the top right down to the bottom, you can just type the show command. It'll show you everything that is underneath where you currently are. So if you need to get into somewhere, you just type show, you go down and say, oh, I need to get down into this part here. So you type edit, whatever that says down there, and there you are down there now. And you can do show again. Oh, okay, now I'm in here. What do I need to change? Oh, I need to change this bit here. So you can edit down into it, or you can just type set right from where you are and make the change. So it's actually fairly easy to navigate around inside the hierarchy, because at any point you type in show, and it shows you exactly what's underneath that particular part of the hierarchy that you are in. Okay, so moving around in the hierarchy is a fairly simple thing. So edit is a bit like the change directory command, takes you down to a particular level. If I type in edit protocols after area 51 stub, I go boom, straight down to that level of the hierarchy, and can make changes at that level. So then I'm actually, this prompt here tells me where I am, displays it, tells me exactly where I am in the hierarchy there. If I want to go up a level, I type up, I go up a level. If I want to go right to the very top, I type in top. I go boom, straight up to the top of the hierarchy. If I want to go up 2 levels, I type up 2. So there it is, up 2. And I'm going up 2 levels. There's top, straight to the top. So edit area 51 stub. So if I'm at OSPF here, and I want to get down to there, then from there I'm typing edit area 51 stub, and it's taking me from OSPF down to there. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm moving around in the hierarchy so that I can apply a configuration at that level. That's why I'm moving around in the hierarchy, because I want to configure something particular with the stub area. Okay, so moving between levels, we've got the edit command, a bit like a change directory command. Up goes up a level, N goes up any number of levels, top goes straight to the top, exit will move you to the previous or higher level, and if you get right to the top and type exit, it takes you right out of configuration mode altogether. Okay, so let me give you, I guess, a little demonstration of that. So let me just, I'm just going to get our VPN up and running again, which is somewhere. Let's get rid of that. I think it's down here. Let me just go down to here. connect there, see if this works. Should have done that. Let's see if this works. Looks good. Okay, let's open up PuTTY to 40.31, for example. SSH, take me in. Okay, that's going to go in. So we're going to log into there. Okay, so we're going to go into PuTTY. I'm going to log in as lab 123. Okay, so where I am now, I'm at the very top of the hierarchy. Okay, so I'm also in operational mode. How do I know that? Well, because of the little greater than sign there. Okay, so now I can check operational type things like let's do show chassis. Let's do what can I see? Let's look at, I've got any alarms. Let's look at for alarms, for example. Show chassis alarms. And do I have any alarms? Oh, there are no alarms currently active. Your beauty. See that down there? We'll just pull it up. There it is. Okay, so no alarms are currently active. So what about, can I see, what about the fan? Let's look at the fan. Anything about the fan there? Oh, there we are. SRX 240, power supply is fine. It's running at 750 RPM. Spinning at normal speed. So all good. So the fans are all good. All happy about the fans. What about temperature? How hot is it? Let's look at the environment. Let's take a look at the environment. So this is operational command, right? Chassis environment. Space key to complete that. Well, what have we got? We've got a temperature. Well, it's 43 degrees down there in rack 1, down at the ACIT campus inside this device. It is at least 43 degrees C. Yeah, we've got some fans, a couple of fans. Look like they're running okay. CPU's okay. Everything's looking good. All happy. Okay. So I can get that information. Let's look at some interfaces. So I'm going to go show interfaces. Now, if this was a Cisco device, I'd type show interfaces brief. Because it's a Juniper device, I'm going to type show interfaces terse. Terse. That's terse. Don't be terse with me. Terse. Okay. So terse. That's it there. So there we are. That's my management interface. That's the one I'm currently connected to. 10.10.40.31. We can see that that is up. It's running the protocol of iNet, which is IPv4. And here's some. These are all logical. These other ones, they're all logical interfaces. And there's my other physical interfaces down here. Just type the space bar to go through that. And there we are. So they're also logical interfaces. Okay, so I can look at those interfaces. All good. Okay, so that was just looking at interfaces. If I want to look at a lot of information about a particular interface, I could go show interface, and let's look at GE000. I can look at that one. Then I'm going to get lots more information about a particular interface. There it is there. Not enough, not more. Okay, no worries, you can have more. We'll go extensive. And now we've got even more information about the interface. There it is there. We've got class of service information, queue information, which you haven't got configured, but it's all there. more. There it is. Lots of information about the interface. Okay, so this is operational command. Okay, I'm in there, I'm looking around, I'm seeing what's going on, and all good. Now, let's say I want to configure something. I want to go and change something. I go into configuration mode. There we are. We're entering configuration mode. We're now in configuration mode. So let's do show. And if I do show at that level, I'm going to see all the configuration from the top down. So here it is. We've got some user information down here. We've got some super users. We've got some passwords and stuff going on there. We've got some services that we're running, SSH, etc., etc. Here's my interface configuration. So this is what's actually configured on the interface, which is that there. Okay. So before we saw what was currently operational on the interface. Now I'm seeing what is configured on the interface. So there's some security, staff, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so far so good. What if I wanted to go and configure another interface? What if I wanted to go and configure, let's have a look, GE001, for example. Okay, nothing's configured there. Not there. By the way, if I wanted to run an operational command while I'm in configuration mode, I can. Same as with Cisco. With Cisco, you type in do in front of the command. In Juniper, you type run in front of the command. So if I go run, show interfaces terse, there I am. Okay, I'm still going to see it. So if I want to configure this interface, for example, I could do it. But how would I do it? Well, I've got a few ways of going about it. I could type in set interfaces. I could do this. Set interfaces GE-001, and then I could go from there, okay, as to what exactly, this is all the options I could possibly type next, as to what I'm actually going to do with this interface. I could do that and configure it that way. Or I could say, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go edit interfaces, GE1 down to there. And now from there, I can type set and put the configuration that way. Okay, so I could go and say set unit 0, which is a logical interface, family, INET, which is IPv4, address 192.168.2.3 /24. So with Juniper, you just put a slash. You don't go putting in subnet masks. And there it is. I've done it. I put an IP address on the interface. I can now go show, and there it is. That's now configured. Okay. I want you to notice something. Let's just go run, show, interfaces. Oh, hang on. I need to go terse. Terse. I want you to notice something. There's no IP address on that interface. Why not? I've just configured it, but it's not there. Why isn't it there? I haven't committed it. Exactly. I haven't committed it. All right. So let's do that. Let's commit it. Just commit. It takes a while to commit. What was that comment? All right, it's committed. All right, let's take a look at interfaces terse, and look at that. There it is. We've got the address on the interface. Okay, happy days. So you had to commit it. All right. Let's just say, oh my goodness, I completely mucked that up. I didn't mean to do that at all. Oops, I need the capitals. I'm going to go rollback. Hang on, I need to go RO. What can I do here? Are we happy? Doesn't like it. Oh, I need to go top. I need to go top. That's better. You got to be at top to do a rollback. Okay, I can go rollback. What's available? Oh, lots of rollbacks available to me. Which one do I want to do? Rollback 1, which is the one before I just made that change. I go rollback 1. Ta-da! Let's do a show, and we'll see that there is nothing. There we go. Web tree interfaces. Nothing. Nothing is configured on interface GE01. It's not without missing. Not there at all. Okay, but run show interface toast, and it's still there. Why? Because I have to commit my rollback before it goes active. You always have to commit it. Okay. It's a great little thing which is commit and quit, which flicks you straight back out into operational mode as well. It's kind of handy. Which means if you're right down the bottom of the hierarchy configuring something, go commit and quit, and it pops you straight out. And we'll do that commit, and then we'll do show the interfaces again. And voila, look, there it is, nothing on interface. So basically we did a rollback, okay, and we went back to the previous configuration. It's kind of cool, isn't it? Okay, so what I wanted to show there is the fact that when you're configuring, use the edit command to move around inside the hierarchy, use the set command to make a change, use the rollback command to go back and restore a previous configuration quite easily. Okay, so it's quite a, I mean, it's a relatively easy CLI, you know, to kind of use. Lots of help built in there. One of the great things about it, which I like, is it doesn't let you just go on typing wrong things. So if I was going to type in set interfaces FE 0 address, it's going to say, hang on, that's a syntax error. You can't type that. Okay. Well, I can't type FE either. So, gee. Just on that point, by the way, of FE and GE, the thing I wanted to point out to you is that some of your devices have got fast Ethernet interfaces, and some of you have got devices with gigabit Ethernet interfaces. It's very easy to tell by just doing a show interfaces as to which ones you've got. Okay. However, the labs, when we get into the labs are always going to specify GE interfaces. All right, so if you've got a device with an FE interface, when the lab tells you to go and configure GE000 or 001, you're going to configure FE001. Okay, that is the only thing that's different. Everything else is identical with your labs. Just change the G to an F. Okay, so yeah, so like if this was Cisco, I'd be going along here and it'd say, it'd just let me type it and get to the end, hit enter, and said, nah, you idiot, you've stuffed it up. With Juniper, you get halfway through it and it says, no, that's not going to work. Got to do it differently. Okay, so you go and type unit 0 and then you'd go from there. Okay, so it kind of tells you before you get to the end of the line that it's not going to work. Okay, so all good. It's kind of cool. All right. So let's just go back to our PowerPoint presentation and go to there. Okay, so we're going to use the set to add configuration statement. So we just had a look at that. So for example, I'm in configuration mode because the little hash symbol there, edit system services, and I'm going to so far I've got SSH and Telnet, but I want to add FTP. So I'll just go set FTP. I've now added FTP to my system services, and if I go into a show, I can see that FTP is now added, because before it wasn't there. Now it is there. So I've added it to my configuration. Okay, I have to commit it to make it go live, but it's now in my configuration. Okay, how do we undo something? Well, we use the delete command. So in Cisco, we'd use the no command in front of it. In Juniper, we use the delete command. So if I said I don't want Telnet in there, I'd just go in and I'd delete Telnet, and there it is, it's gone. Same goes for anything. If you put an IP address on an interface, now this is actually a fairly important point with Juniper. Let's just say I go in and I'm putting an IP address on an interface, and I put the wrong IP address on the interface. Oops, mucked it up. And I want to change it. Okay, if this was a Cisco device, you could go in and put a different IPv4 IP address on the interface, and that would overwrite the previous one. Alright? If you did that in Juniper, it won't overwrite the previous one, it will add an additional one. So now you've got two IPv4 addresses on the interface. You can have multiple IPv4 addresses on the same interface in a Juniper device.
Do you need to say it's a secondary IP like on Cisco?
There is yes, there is an ability to have a secondary IP. Yes, there is. Okay, but actually no. When you're typing it, you don't have to say, "Oh, by the way, this is a secondary IP." Yeah. If you just went and put it on again, the same way as you did the first one, you'd have two. But you can say it's a secondary. You don't have to say it's secondary to make it go on there. No, it'll just go on there, right? Next year you've got two. So what you'd have to do is a few ways of doing it, but you could go and delete the first one and then put the second one on. Okay. It's got this other really cool feature as well called replace pattern. So if you typed a 5 instead of a 6, you can go replace pattern 5 with 6, enter, and it just changes it like that straight away for you. Okay, so it's a great tool that I've used that. You know, I put the wrong address on there. I should have typed this, replace pattern, and there it is, done, finished. So very cool. What we say? We were saying you have to use the delete command to remove something. So here's the thing. If you just disable an interface with a set interface name disable command, so this is something you can do. You can go in and say, I actually don't want that interface to be active at the moment. So I'll go in and I'll go set GE 0/0/1 disable and commit. And now I've disabled the interface because no, I just don't want that to be active at the moment. How do I re-enable the interface? Exactly. What you would do is you'd go delete interface GE 0/0/1 disable, and it would then take the disable off, and then you commit that. Okay, so you've deleted the disable command. Okay. This is what I'm talking about, the replace pattern. That is really cool. Let's just say I went and even configured the wrong interface. So I put this big elaborate configuration on interface 10 when I should have put interface 11. Now what do? Go and toggle again? No. Replace pattern. GE 00/10 with GE 0/11. Boom, boom. You've now configured interface 11 instead of 10. So basically it just chucks that configuration on interface 11 and takes it off 10 straight away. Okay. So it's kind of really great, you know, for those sorts of things. And you can also copy a whole configuration statement between them. Just say I want to configure both of them. Just say they're almost identical. Maybe there's only one or two little changes. You can just copy the configuration from one to the other and just make those slight little changes on it. Maybe just an IP address of the interface, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so that's kind of handy as well to save you work. Okay, save you typing. It's kind of cool. Deactivate. I love this command. Deactivate. What it does is it ignores the configuration statement. So you can. The beauty of that is you say, look, at some point I'm going to need this configuration. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, whatever it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan it out now. I'm going to configure absolutely everything that I need right now, have it all up and running, but I'm going to have it as deactivated. So I'm going to deactivate that configuration. Another good thing is, like, this is what I use a fair bit. I've configured a security policy, okay, which blocks something out. But I don't want it to be active just for now. So I configure it, but then I deactivate it. So everything's working nicely, but there's a certain time of the day or a certain period of time where I want that to be active. I just go in and activate it, commit, boom, and now it's active. So I can have quite an elaborate policy written that I can have active or deactivated whenever it suits me to have it that way. Okay, there are some times where you may want to do that. There may be times, and the other great thing about that is you can actually set up a scheduler for that type of thing as well, which is kind of cool. Get into that later. So it's kind of really handy you can have a configuration that you want to keep, you don't want to blow it away because you want to use it, you have a purpose for it, but you don't want to have it active right now. You just go and deactivate it. The insert command is great when you're writing things, like with access controllers, where you have to write everything sequentially. Well, let's say you want to insert something above something else, the insert command kind of lets you do that. It puts the command up above it. Annotate, which is your comments. Viewing the candidate configuration, we actually just demonstrated that before. That's where you go show. You're in configure mode, you go and show, you just go down and see what's underneath that particular configuration. You know how I went down to edit interfaces and I did a show at that point? You can actually be at the top hierarchy and just go show interfaces, and it'll show you the configuration that's just under the interfaces part as well. Or show services, or you can edit down to the services hierarchy and just do a show from there, and it'll show you everything underneath of it. Okay, so you can basically put in the whole command at the top level just to see that bit, or you can navigate down to it using the edit command and do a show from there. Use commit to activate the changes. Here's a great little command as well, commit check. Okay, so here you are putting in this big configuration. You get to the end, you type commit, and it says, nah, you've stuffed it up. Not good. Where did I muck it up? Where did I go wrong? Okay, what's a really good handy tool is as you're writing this configuration, you write a bit, you type commit check. And it checks your configuration to make sure that everything's okay, that it's actually going to work. And if it's okay, it says, yep, it's all good. Say, happy days, I'll keep going. Write a bit more, commit check, yep, still good, it's all good, it's all going to work, okay. So you don't get to the end and find out, uh-oh, I made a mistake, but where have I made the mistake? You can do these little commit checks along the way. They're really kind of good. Also, if you loaded a configuration and you've never tested it, you can do a commit check. Is this going to work? And it'll just check it for you. It actually checks. If you don't put commit check and you just type commit, it will check it. Okay, and if it's not going to work, it will tell you. But commit check is kind of really good. If you're writing bits of it as you go, you have to kind of check it along the way to make sure that I haven't mucked something up. Okay, and if you have mucked something up, well, you know it's just since the last commit check. So whatever you've done since the last commit check, that's where the problem is. You can go back and probably find that quite easily. This is a really, really good command, and here commit confirmed. And what that does, if you type in commit confirmed, what it does is it actually makes the configuration go active, but then to keep it live, or what you then have to do, it goes active, then you have to type commit a second time to lock it in, if you like. Now, if you don't type commit a second time, it will roll it back automatically without you doing anything. Okay, where's this really good? Remote access in, okay, into the head office from home late at night, putting a configuration change in, and you muck something up totally, and you type commit, and you lock yourself out of the router. Uh-oh, I have to go in my pajamas to the office. Let me go and fix it. Right. If you type commit confirmed and you totally mucked it up, you'll type in commit confirmed, it'll roll it back, and you say, uh-oh, I've lost access to the router. I've done something wrong. I can't get back in. Because you have to get back in to confirm it. Okay, you've got to actually type commit a second time. You can't get in to type it a second time because you've locked yourself out. Okay, just sit back, wait for 5 minutes, it'll roll back, and then you can go back in and fix it up. Okay, so it's an automatic rollback. So unless you confirm it, it's going to roll it back. Okay, it's a really another cool but saving feature that's built into Juniper.
Because it's automatically, you don't need to commit after rolling back again.
No, the commit confirm is an automatic timed rollback. So it will roll it back and commit it back to the previous configuration. Yeah, it will do that. So unless you confirm it by typing commit again, it'll roll it back. Because it assumes, okay, you don't want to confirm it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'll roll it back. Or you can't confirm it. Lock yourself out. You can really see this was designed by network admins. For all the things that can go wrong. Here's a really cool feature as well. Commit at a certain time. So let's just say I want this configuration to go live at a certain time. So here I am to say I want to go live at midnight. Well, I have two choices. I can come to work at midnight and type the configuration and then commit it, or I can type it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, type it all up, do a commit check. Yeah, all looks good. Okay, now do commit at and give it a time. Okay, in this case it's 2100, which is 9 o'clock. But I could have made it midnight. Could have made it 23:59. Go live. So it'll do a check. Yep, it's all good. It's going to go live at that time. You go home and then boom, boom, it goes live. Okay, then you get the phone call. So yeah, so it goes live. So that's kind of a really cool thing as well. Now, where that's really good is what if there were a number of devices that all needed to change at the same time to implement that particular topology change that you wanted to make. Okay, just go and configure each of them up, tell them all commit at the same time. Of course, you've got them all synced to the same time source like you should have, and they'll all just, boom, all just commit simultaneously. This is a comment on your commits, so you can actually comment your commits. So you can say, okay, I changed the RSPF, or this is what I did, and there's a log kept of all the commits. You can go and look at it and see what actually happened on that particular log. We go for time. All right, and as I said, the commit and quit was one I just showed you earlier on. Take you straight back out and put you into operational mode. You can actually do a compare. Commit compare is good if you're going in and you are configuring something and you want to see the changes between your candidate configuration and your active configuration. You would type commit compare, and it will just show you the differences between the candidate and the active. So maybe you put an IP address on an interface, it'll just show you that particular difference. If you wanted to say compare rollback number 1, you could go and do that, or you could compare a particular file name, which would be a configuration that you've got saved somewhere. And you can compare the differences between what's active and what's in that configuration, or what's active to what's in that rollback number. Okay, go and check that. You can just compare two arbitrary files as well to see what the differences are. So rollback, we talked about rollbacks. Rollback 0 is if you're in the middle of configuring something and you get totally muddled and want to go back and start again, rollback 0 puts you back to where you were. So that just loads the active configuration straight back up. It becomes the candidate again, which is kind of where you started from. Rollback 1 or rollback whatever number you want to put there is the one to get you out of trouble after you've made your candidate configuration active and decided, oops, that's not good. You can then go and do a rollback, as I did, and demonstrate. I just demonstrated a rollback 1. Okay, back and did that rollback. And as I said, you still got to commit the rollback. All right, which is what I demonstrated before. I did the rollback. Configuration has changed, but the IP address is still on the interface until I committed it, and then it took it off. All right, so. Review of the configuration file is once you go into configure, the active becomes the candidate, you make changes to the candidate, you commit it, the candidate becomes the active, and the current active becomes rollback 1. Rollback 1 becomes rollback 2, rollback 2 becomes rollback 3, and so on, right down to 49. Everybody good with that? Any questions about that concept? Good? Okay. Then we'll take a short break. It's 2:30. And when we come back, we will look at saving configuration files, and I'll give you a demonstration of how to do that. Now let's take a break, 15-minute break. We'll come back at 2:45.